Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to a Wednesday edition of the Spin Zone. I'm your host, Spin Doc, here on behalf of the Daily Bread Network, and so glad to have everybody here, whether you're joining live or whether you watch it later. Thank you so much for being here. As a reminder, before we get underway, this is being brought to you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. Please do subscribe for all of our content, all of our information, all the stuff. It's all there. And if you're not, please follow me at Spin Doc Sports. You can get alerts whenever we go live, whenever we're giving out information. Also, please do us a favor and at some point during this broadcast, smash the like, give it a repost, give it a share. We do appreciate the love. It helps get our information out there. All right. So we're in Wednesday. It's the middle of the week, right? It's midweek. So let's talk about, first and foremost, as we always do, about what did we learn yesterday. So from yesterday, there were for the three guys that I talked about. One, I nailed, like absolutely nailed, saw what they were doing, called it out. One, I whiffed horribly on it. And the other one, I said, this is the only way you should play it if you want to, but I'm probably going to stay off. So it was kind of a mixed bag, which was actually how VIP went as well. VIP actually, we took a pretty big shot yesterday. We had 5 plays going, which is about the max that we usually have going in any one day. One of my biggest things in VIP is bankroll protection and limiting what is called your risk of ruin. And so like that's why systems like the martingale system, if you follow that, that's why that doesn't work, because your risk of ruin is so high. Martingale system, for example, is, let's just say that you're at a blackjack table where there's no limit on what you can bet. You bet $10, you lose. You bet 20, then you bet 20, then you bet 40, then you bet 80, then you bet 100. That thing, stuff like that. That's why that doesn't work, because nobody has unlimited bankrolls. And eventually you will go on a streak where you can't catch back up. So I always try to limit the bankroll, but we did have 5 plays going. We were 3-2 and up like 0.2 something units, 0.1, 0.2 units. So we're still at a healthy amount for the year, still well over 56.5%. As always, contact me, go to Win the Day VIP on X if you want to get in on that. We have a whole bunch of stuff going. We have a whole bunch more football content coming too. Sosa and I recorded a ton of NFL stuff that you'll see coming out on Daily Bread Network on YouTube in the coming days, and we're recording a whole bunch more today. We got previews, we got fantasy guys, we got all kinds of stuff to take you all the way through training camp and help you get a leg up on the NFL season. But let's talk about baseball last night. And I talked about how I was kind of like 1-1-1 for some of the guys, for the 3 guys that I talked about. The guy I freely admit I totally missed on, total whiff by me, was Jacob Mizorowski. My goodness, that kid just blasted the Dodgers. And not only did he do that, but he also earned himself a win. He's 4-1 now. And the thing that I liked the most, aside from the 12 Ks, was just blew it past so many Dodger hitters. I mean, Freeman struck out 3 times. Betts even struck out twice. The guys that you wouldn't expect to strike out. The thing that I like the most about this kid, and the lesson that I'm taking, is that not that he's going to be impossible to fade, but he's going to be really hard to fade until teams start seeing him the second time around, because his change in velos and his change in sight line on pitches, where he goes fastball high, change up low, curveball even lower, that constant change really makes the batters have to process a lot. And the number one thing that I love about this kid is his energy. You saw him when he got off the mound in the 6th inning, and the Dodgers were threatening, but he got out of it, got that slow ground ball, and he was just jumping around like a little kid. And I know he is a kid, but that's just so awesome to see. So not only does he have that youthful experience, just that youthful energy, but he's also got that dog in him, because the Dodgers threatened a few times. And And there were a few times where like that offense could have really, really done some damage, especially could have done some damage right off the bat because I mean, Otani led off the game with a home run, and he just didn't even it was like it didn't even phase him. It was just like, okay, that solo home run, you can live with that. Let's go back to work. So I'm taking that home. I'm taking that as a lesson learned on Mizorowski, and we will apply that going forward. The one that was kind of in the middle was Hunter Brown. I talked about how Hunter Brown is hard to fade at home. I mean, if you did last night, you won, but I said that we were probably going to be completely off of it in VIP. We were. We didn't touch it. Hunter Brown walked 3 and just really struggled. Struggled to get swings and misses too. So, and the other thing that he really struggled to do was 91 pitches, only 57 strikes. That is not what we're used to seeing from Hunter Brown. He's usually he's usually in that he's usually in that like 67 to 70% strike range, only 62.6% last night. And what was really abnormal about it is that the Guardians have a number of guys that chase in their lineup. I mean, even some of the high contact guys chase. So I didn't, admittedly, I didn't watch a ton of that game because we were completely off of it and we had 400,000 other things going at the time. So, but Hunter Brown, I'm going to chalk it up to the exception, not the rule, and I want to see what he does in his next start. It's not going to be enough to make me say, "Wow, is he falling off the table?" Like, oh man, maybe we got to think twice about Hunter Brown. No, I think what happened was, I mean, sometimes guys have off nights. Looking at his velo, a couple pitches were down slightly, but there was nothing metrically that would really make you think like, yeah, this kid just doesn't have it. So, but the line was set exactly as it should be. And when you have a big 3 like the Guardians do from a contact perspective, that makes 7 strikeouts which is what it was, a very iffy proposition. So we just stayed off of it. Now, on to, because again, I'm fairness in conversation. When I get one right, I say it. When I get one wrong, I say it. I talked about how whiffed on Mizorowski, kind of thought everything was how it should be on Brown, and there wasn't a whole lot of value on that line, so it's probably a pass. If you're playing it, this is the way you should do it. But the guy that I warned you about, which was the same way I warned you about DeGrom, was I warned you about Robbie Ray. I warned you about why the line was set the way it is. Why did they give you plus money at his average for a team that had Chase galore in their lineup? Why did they give you that for a guy who was just making guys miss left and right? Looking back, because we did play him in VIP, we cashed the under. Looking back, I mean, you look at some of the zone contacts for this team, and you have Schwarber, you had Schwarber, you had Harper, you had Kemp, and you had Sosa, all under 82%. And actually, 3 of those guys, Schwarber, Harper, and Rojas, were under 80%, which is no good, no bueno. You also had 6 guys who had chase contact under average, and you had 6 guys who chased above league average. This should have been custom made, custom fit for Robbie Ray to strike out like 8, 9, or 10. And I saw a lot of people, a lot of trend guys on X, and a lot of guys who go just based on strikeouts and averages, who were laddering him and talking about play of the day and lock of the millennium, whatever the hell it was. Like, he was a very popular play, and the books made it easy to bet on him all throughout the day, up until first pitch, even when the lineup was released. And even when the lineup was released, that line should have changed. And here's why. Is because Real Muto is a high contact guy, and he was in the projected lineup. Marchand had struck out 2 out of 5 times against Robbie Ray, had whiff percentages against a slider and against a curve and changeup of like 45%, had chase contact under league average. Like, that change should have upped his projection considerably, but it didn't. It stayed exactly where it was. That told me everything that I needed to know. And whenever you're in doubt, and I promise you this is the case, don't trust a trend sheet. Don't trust a hit rate. Trust the $1 billion industry that sets this line. And they were screaming, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me on the over. So if you played Robbie Ray's under, you cashed it. And that's just that's my little TED talk for the day, is that please, if you follow somebody that, or whoever it is, I'm not going to hate on anybody, but if you follow somebody that says stuff like, what the F is this line? And, oh, the book's screwed up. The books are sleeping. No, they're not. They are not sleeping. Their algorithms are worth more than most of our houses. Their net income is in the billions. They don't make mistakes like this, guys. They just don't. So before you think that you can take a hit rate or a trend sheet and outsmart what appears to be a can't miss line, what's usually happening is you're walking right into a trap. So hopefully you stayed away from Robbie Ray, or even more so, hopefully you played the under on him and took home some money. Elsewhere across the diamond in MLB, out in New York, I had Logan Gilbert as a potential, but the potential for the rain and the weather and there was too much stuff going against him there. Same thing with Will Warren, is that line was set at way too low. That was another one where Will Warren should not have been at a 4.5, but he was. Yeah, the combination of the weather, neither one of those guys hit their overs. And so, yeah. The only other one I wanted to cover, because I got asked about it yesterday, is I said with Bello, I wasn't on him, but over was the only way to play it. And if you did, you obviously cashed, because the Rockies, for all the improvements that they've made in some spots in their swing metrics lately, is the Rockies are still the Rockies. Rockies are still the Rockies, and they're on my no under island for a reason, which means that the only way that you can play them, if you are going to, would be on the over. There is just no path to playing an under on the Colorado Rockies. It doesn't matter what the pitcher is, doesn't matter what the situation is, you just can't do it. So I think that's probably going to be it for what to review from yesterday. We will go to the chat before we talk about what the business of the day is. Want to say what's up to Luke Murphy. Good morning to our New York Times bestselling author, Luke Murphy. Luke, happy anniversary to you as well, my friend. I saw your post. Happy anniversary, and hope that you and your missus have many, many more. Appreciate you. Shout out to Andrew. Welcome and good morning. Been out of town for the last few days. Hope you had a good time. Hope you had a fun trip, and back to the morning routine. First break at work goes hand in hand with spring breaking down. I love it. I love it, man. Hopefully we can earn you some money while you're on your break there. And Kid Keon, welcome in. Thank you to you. And Kid Keon saying Hunter sold because he was taco on Prize Picks. He was. Oh yes. So Hunter Brown didn't even come close. It was one of those games you could tell from the first inning that it just wasn't good. Honestly, if I was following that game more closely live, but if we didn't have so many other things going in VIP last night, because like I said, we had a lot going last night, I might have taken a shot on a live under, because you can just tell from the first two innings that it just wasn't his night, and maybe something will come out. I looked at all, just real quick, one more thing on Hunter Brown. I did look at all of his advanced metrics from last night, and nothing appeared super out of the ordinary. Whenever a guy has kind of a what kind of start, I always do go back and look, like, was his velo down? Was his spin down? Was something like that happening? And you look at Hunter Brown from last night, his velo was right on the money. His spin was right on the money. And his vertical and horizontal break was right on the money. I mean, there's nothing nothing to indicate that there was something wrong, physically wrong with him. He did allow 83% zone contact for the night, which is about 6 or 7% above his normal average. And you just get a guy on a night. That's what I'm chalking it up to, unless I learn something else to the contrary. And Dale James, welcome in. Hey to you as well, and thank you so much for joining. Appreciate all of you. We're going to cover 3 pitchers today. Go through all the numbers, all the metrics, etc. If there's any that I don't cover, please do put them in the chat. And as I said yesterday, never feel like you're asking for too much. I will be happy to give an overview of any pitcher going today, any other matchup, anything, period. Would love to hear from you. Put it right in the chat if we don't cover them. So we will start in the afternoon. And the first guy that we have to talk about is Mr. Jesus Luzardo. The lefty is striking guys out at a 27.2% clip. He's walking guys at 8.3%. He gets the Giants today at 3:45 Eastern time. And we have a line pretty much, which is where I thought it would be, at an over 5.5 heavily juiced, which is down a little bit from what he's normally at that 6.5 number, and a under 5.5 at a decent plus price. Decent. You can get it anywhere between plus 105 to plus 115. All right, let's talk about and let's break down Jesus Luzardo. So Jesus Luzardo is out in San Francisco. The projected lineup for these Giants is 2 lefties and 7 righties. Now, Jung-Hoo Lee has not been leading off against lefties. In fact, in some cases, he hasn't been playing against lefties. I would be very surprised if he was out of the lineup today, but during day games after night games, the Giants have been known to do some weird stuff. So right now he's projected to lead off, and if he's not leading off, and especially if he's not in the lineup, then I would expect this line to move. Jung-Hoo Lee, ultimate contact guy, averages for the season are 91.1% for zone contact, which is almost 10% above league average, and his chase contact is 73.1, which is 20% above league average. He is incredibly difficult to strike out. So that's the first thing that I want to see is, where will Jung-Hoo Lee bat, and will he be in the lineup? Because the Giants have been about 50-50 if they run him lefty-lefty, which is what we have today. Now, the rest of the lineup is pretty much what you might expect from the Giants. However, day game after night game, as I said, they have been known to run some goofy lineups. And so I really want to pay attention to the lineup for this one. Luzardo, for his part, is striking guys out at a 28% clip on the road. And he has been absolutely dominant against lefties, 40.9% compared to 23.6 against righties. This is why I said we need to pay attention, because you have these 2 opposing forces here, where you have an incredibly low strikeout and high contact guy in Jung-Hoo Lee, but you have a guy who has gotten him before in Luzardo and absolutely has dominated lefties. The other guy I want to see where they bat, and if they do, is Devers. Devers, obviously, they traded for him to be their everyday DH and to be their power bat, etc. He has moved all across the lineup. Right now, he's projected to bat 5th. If Devers is in, he counts as a 1+, meaning that he could strike out more than once against Luzardo. So Lee and Devers are the 2 that I really want to see. As far as the rest of the lineup goes, whenever it comes to Jesus Luzardo, he does spend 48.9% of his time in the zone, and he does allow a ridiculously low chase contact rate. So if you're going to chase against this guy, which makes sense with the sweeper that he throws, go 30.6% is his chase rate, which is above league average, and he allows chase contact 13% under average. Oof. Chase against this man, you're not in good shape. So we go to the lineup for these Giants, and you have Lee, I'm going to take out of the equation because I don't know where or if he's going to be in. But you have Adames, Ramos, and Chapman. So Adames has terrible chase contact. Ramos has chases above league average and is about average. And Chapman doesn't chase very much at all. So between those guys, you probably got about 1.5, maybe 2 strikeouts. As I said, Devers is next in the lineup. You got to see where he's going to be at, because if he's going to be anywhere in the top 5, that's a 1+. So now you're at 3.5, possibly even 4. Flores, Mateos, and Schmidt are next in the projected lineup. And with Flores, makes good chase contact and chases right about average, so he's going to be a tough get. You have Mateos, who chases a ton, makes contact when he does, so you got to put him at a half. And then Schmidt does chase below league average, but doesn't make contact, so he's a potential for 1. Bailey to close it out. Bailey is horrible at both chase contact, so when he chases, so you got 1. So I'm coming up with 6 here. However, I need to see a lineup, and I need to see a lineup construction, because if you take out Devers, if you don't bat Devers today, and there's benefits to doing it, because obviously he's got a big bat, and he can help you out from that perspective. Now, he has faced Luzardo 3 times and he hasn't struck out, but that's not Rafael Devers from this year. Rafael Devers from this year is swinging a ton and chasing a ton, and you do that against this man Luzardo, and it's just not going to be good. So I want to see how this lineup is organized. Now, the other thing to see with Luzardo is, if you remember earlier in the season, back in June, when he just got obliterated, against the Blue Jays and against the Brewers. And it came out, and Pitching Ninja, Ron Friedman, if you don't follow Pitching Ninja, you should, is put together a great video of what his motion was, and showing how he was tipping pitches, especially when he was throwing a changeup, because what he was doing, and you can see this in the video on the video that he has, is that he was bringing the ball out of his glove right before he would throw. And when he did that, then he would bring it back in and go into his windup. It was very, very clear that he was throwing a changeup. You do that once or twice and you're done. Now, the problem here becomes the pitching staff put in a fix. So he made an adjustment to his mechanics and to his stretch, so he doesn't tip pitches. However, this is presenting a new problem, because it's an abnormal motion for a guy like Luzardo. So he's not tipping pitches, but his mechanics have been a little wonky lately. You could see it in his last start. Now, part of that was because, against the Reds, he only had 4 strikeouts, but the Reds don't chase. So the Reds don't chase. The Braves do have guys that chase. The Mets have a few guys that chase. Marlins don't chase a ton outside of a few guys. And so that's why I'm looking more at the chase and the chase contact than anything else. So if you want the over for this one, the guys that you want you want Devers for sure, you want Bailey for sure, and you're probably going to want Adames, even though he doesn't chase as much. But Bailey and Devers for sure are 2 guys that you're going to want. Now, if they're not going to go lefty-lefty and they are going to put different guys in, Tyler Fitzgerald would be a great one for the over. And Schmidt is projected to be in the lineup anyway. He's got bad chase contact. The same thing would go with if they bat Yaz, and Yaz is a lefty. If they bat Yaz, that would be good for an under. So you really, really got to pay attention to the lineup. You really got to pay attention to where are these guys at, and where are they going to be batting. So right now, if the lineup is exactly as projected, I have a slight lean, a very, very slight lean on the over 5.5 here. I think that there's enough chase in this lineup, and Devers can strike out twice, as can Bailey. If they do something else, then I'll have to reassess. So that's where I'm at with Luzardo. I know it's kind of sort of like I had with Hunter Brown last night, kind of like a non-answer, but lineup is going to be a huge determinant of this. because there are guys that they can bat where if they go lefty lefty, so like if they have Lee and Yaz both in, both have great chase contact. However, Luzardo has dominated lefties, and he has gotten Yaz and Lee both 3 out of 10 times. So he's striking them out at a 30% rate. So there's not a whole lot of lineup combinations that the Giants can put out there that would make me think that maybe like the under would be a good value on. So for me, it's probably going to be an over or pass. And actually, oh, you know what? Slim, thank you. You were right. Fitzgerald was optioned. He is not on the roster anymore, so he won't be in. So we'll see who they put in instead. But Yaz is not in the projected. Devers and Lee are. I'm interested to see how many lefties they actually run. All right. Speaking of lefties, we got Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore, the lefty, striking guys out at a 30.5% clip, walking guys at a 7.9% clip. He goes to St. Louis tonight, 7:45 p.m., and his line was taken down a strikeout, which is usually the case when you're on the road against the Cardinals. Normally, you'd see him at a 6.5. In fact, he has only been at a 5.5 over his last 10 two times, and is 1-1 to that number. But normally you see him at a 6.5. So, and not only is it a 5.5, but it's also a very bettable over 5.5. So think about Robbie Ray last night. Think about what that means. That should be your first clue. Now, you look at past history for this one, and you do see an ample amount, and it's not good if you want the over here, because Gore does have 58 plate appearances against his projected lineup, only 10 strikeouts for a 17.2% strikeout clip. So not good history right from the jump. On the road this year, Gore has been just as good as he has been at home, striking guys out lefty or righty at 30.2%, 30%. So basically 30% the whole way. Same thing, his strikeout percentage on the road is 30% with 11.87 Ks per nine. Now, you look at Gore's last start and you would see, oh my God, he only had 2 strikeouts, and like what's going on? I looked at the past numbers. I looked at the metrics. There was nothing fundamentally wrong with Mackenzie Gore last game. His velo was fine. His break was fine. Now, the one thing that I will say about that is he did pitch to contact more than what we've been seeing. And what I mean by that is that he did go on 2 strikes. He went fastball a lot more. Now, he does throw his fastball 50.3% of the time, and it only generates a 21.5% whiff rate. That's not his bread and butter pitch. His bread and butter pitch is the curveball, and he needs you to chase to get that because it is almost a big sweeping 12-6 curve. Now, when you look at Gore's overall pitch mix from that game, I talked about how he throws the fastball 50.3% of the time. He threw it 56% of the time against the Tigers. Part of that is because there's not that much chase in the Tigers lineup, especially in that one. The other thing to keep in mind is that was game 2 of a doubleheader. And when you have a pitcher like Gore, and I have no insight on this, but I've seen this before, where you get the game 2s of doubleheaders and you don't want your team staying around any extra time. They've been at the ballpark all day. You have a game the next day. You want to go home. And so you play kind of a version of speed baseball. And it's not that you're like not trying to get guys out, but when you're a guy like Mackenzie Gore, you can induce weak contact on your 4-seam fastball. And so while it doesn't make guys whiff, what it does is it induces that weak contact, because guys are batting guys are batting 296 against the 4-seam fastball, but they batted much worse against Mackenzie Gore because he only allowed 3 hits and in just over 5 innings, and gave up 2 earned runs. So it wasn't like he had a bad start. It was just he throws the curveball 24% of the time and the changeup 12% of the time for the season, and threw them far less. He went almost all fastball in that game, and more specifically went almost exclusively fastball when he got down to 2 strikes against guys. And I think part of that was because the guys in the field with him had been there all freaking day, and they had a game the next day because it's the second game of a doubleheader, and you want to just get quick outs and you want to get out of there, and that's what happened. So I'm not going to put too much stock in the fact that he only struck out two guys against Detroit in his last game at home. The game against the Dodgers, I know he only got 4. That was out in LA. He's had some struggles against that lineup in the past. So I'm more worried about what's going to happen today. And what I see today is a couple things. Number one is that his hits prop usually is around it's a 4.5, except for a couple times where it's been a 5.5 lately where he's gotten smacked around. That being out in San Diego and the Dodgers, they had 12 total hits between those two teams. He was also a 5.5 at Baltimore of all teams on May 16th and had 10 hits allowed. So when his hits are up at 5.5, there does tend to be some runs. We're at a 5.5 today, and we're at a 5.5 at a bettable number on the under at -140. That tells me something else. This just screams to me like they want you to take the over money because there can be some tax on the Cardinals because they are an overall high contact team. But when I combine it with the hits, when I combine it with the earned runs, which normally are hover between a 1.5 or a heavily juiced on the under 2.5, we have a bettable under 2.5 at -135 today. So when you combine all of that together and you look at some of the past history that he has against these guys, is that there is a potential for Mackenzie Gore to get hit today. Now, you look at this lineup, and I'm not sure this is going to be the final lineup because this wouldn't be very analytical, but this is close to their normal lineup. Is the Cardinals' projected lineup is 5 lefties or 4 lefties and 5 righties. Again, I'm not sure that that's going to be the case, but with Mackenzie Gore, what I'm always looking for is I am looking for zone contact. I'm looking for zone contact and looking for chase rate because that curveball can make you miss, and the zone contact rate against that 4-seam fastball, which doesn't generate a huge whiff rate anyway. Those are the things that I'm looking for. So I go, let's just say they run projected, and 1 through 3, you have Donovan, Wynn, and Burleson. So Donovan has exceptional zone contact and doesn't chase. That's going to be tough. Wynn has great zone contact, doesn't chase. That's going to be tough. And Burleson has excellent zone contact, does chase, but makes excellent contact when he does. Top 3 are going to be tough if this is what they run. Contreras, Arenado, Gorman are next. And Contreras can definitely be a strikeout candidate. He's average on both. Arenado has always been a high contact guy, and against Gore has not struck out in 11 plate appearances. So if they run Arenado, that's probably going to be a dead spot as well. And then Gorman does have poor zone contact, poor chase contact, so you probably got to concede one there. So within the top 6, I'm coming up with like 2.5. I have Contreras for 1, I have Gorman for 1, and everybody else I have combining for maybe 1. So 2.5 to 3. Now, can you get 3 strikeouts out of the last guys? And also, of those top 6, very, very few are multiple strikeout candidates. Gorman's the only one, I would think. Then you got Sagis, you have Pozo, and you have Scott. And you do have a strikeout candidate in Sagis. So, and then Pozo, you have excellent contact in the zone. You have a lot of chase, but a lot of contact. So you got a half. And then Scott, you have probably can be a strikeout candidate. So you got 2.5. So I'm coming up with 5. And it's really hard for me to get to 6 on Mackenzie Gore. So this is a look on the under if this is the lineup that they run, even with the number of lefties. Gore's strikeout percentage was absolutely absurd against lefties to start the year. It's come down a little bit. But when you factor in the past history, because even some of those guys that I talked about that could be high strikeout guys. So, you have a guy like Contreras. Contreras has only struck out 2 out of 15 times. Gorman, he's gotten 1 out of 2. And there's a couple other guys that he's gotten a few times. But this lineup just does not strike out against a pitcher like Mackenzie Gore. And it's also because right now in the projected, there's only 3 guys that chase. And of those 3 guys that chase, then 2 of them have very, very superb chase contact. So this just isn't set up for Mackenzie Gore to get a whole lot of strikeouts. So I totally get get why it's at a bettable 5.5. If you go by trends, because to the line itself, Gore is at a 5.5. He's 4-2. So if you go, I'm sorry, no. If you go by the line itself, he's 7-3. So 7-3 to having 6+ strikeouts in his last 10. That's what a lot of people who bet trends look at. But you look at the past history and it's just not good. It's not there. And then you look at the zone contact and it's just not there. And then you look at the chase and it's also not there. So those are the three things that I look for in Mackenzie Gore. So this is a very, very clear look on the under if you're going to play it, especially if we get this projected lineup. All right. So moving along to a right-hander who needs kind of some of the opposite things that Mackenzie Gore does, Dylan Cease. The righty is striking guys out at 28.9%, walking guys at 8.6%. He gets Arizona at home. This is one of the nightcaps, 9:40 p.m. Eastern time, and you have a 6.5. You have a 6.5 at even money, and you have the under 6.5 at -130. It's been kind of the Dylan Cease experience lately. He has had one start, or over his last four, or after he torched the Dodgers, actually, his last three. Not a lot of strikeouts and kind of a up and down start against Kansas City. Decent start. He gave up a lot of hits and a lot of earned runs, but still got strikeouts against the Reds. And the Phillies just beat the living shit out of him. So what do we do with Dylan Cease tonight? Well, with Dylan Cease, I always look at what the chase and the chase contact is. Reason being, Cease does spend 2%, over 2% under league average in the zone. He also relies on chase, so he generates a 32.4% chase rate with that slider and generates an absurd chase contact rate that is 13.5%. No, I'm sorry, 14% now under league average. So what happened in the games where Cease just failed from a strikeout perspective against the Royals and against the Phillies? Well, first things first is that I talked about how Cease generates a lot of chase. Now, and he generates chase and he doesn't generate a lot of chase contact. So that chase contact at 43.6. Well, when he faced the Royals generated 56% chase contact. The Phillies generated 57% chase contact. So I'm looking for guys who chase in this Arizona lineup, but I'm also looking for guys who can make contact because the Reds didn't chase against him, but what they also didn't do is they didn't make chase contact when they did. So you look at this projected Diamondbacks lineup, which is right now 2 righties and 7 lefties. And knowing the Diamondbacks, they're probably going to go analytical and they're probably going to go relatively heavy here with the lefties. So Cease is striking lefties out overall at 27.1% compared to 30.7% against righties. Slight dip. At home, it's about the same, 27.6 and 31.5. So you have a little bit of a dip with the lefties, but when you go through this lineup, again, what I'm looking for is chase and chase contact. So Corbin Carroll has gotten better since he's come back, but he still has a lot of chase in his repertoire. He does make chase contact at a decent rate, and overall against Cease has struck out 3 out of 5 times. You got to put him down for 1. Next up is you have Marte and Perdomo. Marte doesn't chase, makes contact when he does. Perdomo doesn't chase, makes contact when he does. And however, Cease has gotten Perdomo 3 out of 6 times, and he's gotten Marte 2 out of 3 times. So you do have some good past history here. So you probably in the top 3, you probably got to go with 2. Next, Naylor, Suarez, and Gurriel. Naylor does make contact when he chases, but chases a lot. Gino Suarez is always going to be a strikeout candidate, has horrendous chase contact and chases above league average. And Gurriel has really good metrics from a chase perspective. Gino Suarez has struck out 3 out of 9 times. Naylor has been tough for Cease, 4 out of 23. So you got to mark that up as a potential dead spot. Same thing with Lourdes Gurriel. 0 for 8. So of those next three, if you get two in the top three, of the next three, I'm coming up with one. I don't think that Geno Suarez in this spot is going to be a potential multi-K candidate. He could be because he hacks a lot, but we probably have three and a half out of the top six. Then you go down to McCarthy, Herrera, and Thomas. McCarthy does chase, doesn't make as much contact when he does. Herrera doesn't chase a lot, doesn't make contact when he does. And Thomas is bad at both. Now, you go to past history with all of those guys, and you see that there's Thomas, he hasn't gotten a whole bunch, but and McCarthy, he's 0 for 6. So between those guys, you got to mark them up for probably 2, maybe 2.5. So I'm coming up with 6 here. Coming up with 6 in this projected lineup, and with a potential for 7 if he can get Suarez or one other guy twice. And that matches up extremely well with this line because it's juiced pretty evenly on both sides. There's nothing really to glean from hits or outs or earn runs. So what I would recommend doing with Cease if they run with this projected lineup is I would recommend taking him down to 6 and pairing him with something else that you like. You might even be able to get like minus 150, minus 160. Don't play that straight up. I never advise that. But if you compare it with something else that you like and maybe take another guy down, you might be able to get some plus money. Because I see 6 in the lineup. I'm just seeing that 7 is maybe going to be a little bit tougher. All right, we have a couple more guys in the comments. Cover Kings, welcome in, my friend. Thank you so much for joining. He's got 1 unit on Jesus Luzardo, minus 140. Yep, talked about if you're playing it, you're going to play on the over. And we got 1 unit on Andrew Abbott, over 4.5. Abbott gets the Marlins today. So we got 1 unit on Andrew Abbott over 4.5. Andrew's saying, I got a feeling it's going to be a Chris Bubich day. He's got the right stuff to get the Pirates. One of our, as I said, we finished slightly up in VIP last night. One of the L's that I was actually irritated as about was Seth Lugo because he had 5 strikeouts in his first 54 pitches, and then they pulled him at 82, and he didn't get a single one after that. Had like 6 guys on 2 strikes, but is what it is. So the reason why I would tend to agree with you, Andrew, is because Bubik does spend 52.4% of his time in the zone, and that's where he gets guys to miss. So the Pirates do have a lot of guys who take, and they have a lot of guys who are willing to take on 1 and 2, or on 1 and 2 and 2 and 2 counts. So if you're a pitcher that operates in the zone like that, then you can rack up some strikeouts. Slim saying, I like Abbott today, getting a lot of him in fantasy. So we got some love for Abbott on this one. If I remember right, there's a little bit of past history, but no, yeah, there's not a lot to really make a determination for Andrew Abbott. Kid Keon, welcome in, my guy. Thank you for joining, saying thoughts on Peterson over and Festa under. So we got David Peterson, who gets the Orioles today. I mean, you have a slight Orioles tax on this one. You have him up because he's normally at a 4.5. At the 5.5 number, he is, or 5.5 or above, he has kind of shaky results. But if you're playing that one, over is the only way to do it. You can't play an under against Baltimore. They are on no under island along with the Rockies and probably now with the Pirates for me. Anaheim has a room reserve there on no under island for me, but they don't have permanent residency like the Orioles and like the Rockies have. And Festa under. So Festa gets the Cubs today, and Festa does operate in the zone a ton. You have a dichotomy with the Cubs because you have guys that do make some pretty good zone contact, but then you also have guys that can miss as well. So I'm going to wait and see what the lineup is for that one. I will tell you that if you have to pick one of those, I would definitely pick Peterson over versus Festa under. I think that there could be 5 strikeouts out there depending on how the Cubs organize their lineup. So it's not my favorite one. I'll put it that way. But I get why you were looking there. And Andrew saying Festa might get smashed. Yeah, his lines are pretty much what they normally are: 2.5, 4.5. 14 and a half everything is pretty much down the line. For me, I just got to wait. I got to see how the Cubs organize their lineup. And Cover Kings, that's a good segue, saying 57 days till the NFL is here. Yes, there's NFL football this month. Yes, it's preseason, but who cares? There's NFL football this month. With that in mind, before we get to other looks, just to let you guys know, there will be a lot of content coming out in over the next few days and weeks from Sosa and myself regarding NFL. We did a whole bunch. We got a whole bunch of stuff on the NFC, on the AFC. We got fantasy. We got all kinds of NFL stuff coming up, and to just have this show just kind of just slowly bleed into the NFL season. And with that in mind, tomorrow, remember, Thursdays, you'll probably thank me later, who is a guy that I think is very undervalued in fantasy drafts, and can't wait to show him and explain why. So would love to go over that. And we got, again, a ton of NFL stuff coming. Andrew says, and their thoughts on Bryce Elder. They mashed last night, but the A's have been swinging and missing a lot. I just don't like Bryce Elder as a pitcher. I'll just be honest with you. I just don't like him as a pitcher. If you're playing it, you got to play the over. The smashing last night was more because I'll be honest, one of the other losses, we were 3-2 in VIP. The two losses we had were Fuentes and Lugo. Lugo obviously had a million chances. Fuentes didn't even come close. The one thing I'll say about Fuentes, and this is not to take blame off of him, but I freaking hate how Sean Murphy called that game last night. I absolutely hated it. He did that kid no favors. He called so many breaking balls for a kid that can be wild and a kid that just isn't throwing them with confidence early. What he was throwing with confidence was his fastball, which gets in the 97, 98 range, and he was running it up and having different locations. And Murphy kept calling breaking pitches. So I don't know if that was part of the game plan. If it was, I have no idea why. But like, this kid does not have command of his secondary and his breaking stuff yet. So you throw those pitches when you get ahead in counts and you can waste a pitch. He was having them throw them on like 1-0 to, like, I think one time he threw it at like he threw it on like 3-1. And I'm like, why would you throw a pitch that he hasn't come close with, that he has no confidence in right now on 3-1? And of course, it was 10 miles out of the strike zone and walked. And so, man, I don't put it all on Murphy, because Fuentes has still got to pitch and he's a kid and he's got to figure it out. But Sean Murphy did him absolutely no favor. He called the game like it was like Strider or Sale behind the plate. And you don't do that. You just let the kid do what he's good at, get a few outs and gain some confidence. I mean, Butler had the inside the park home run, bad break right off the bat. And rather than just say, hey, just blow it by this guy, he's had him throw a breaking ball and he pegs Wilson in the hand, and then and then just has him just hang breaking balls, and then Rooker and Muncy. It was like a home run derby. So I see Andrew in the chat saying that was hilarious. Yeah, Sean Murphy called a terrible, terrible game last night. And as a veteran catcher with a young pitcher, dude, you should know better. And if it was the coaching staff that said, let's have him go breaking balls where you can barely throw a strike, then that's even dumber. So the kid has a 96, 97 mile per hour fastball. Let him use it. Now, you know who doesn't have a 96, 97 mile per hour fastball? Actually, the guy who doesn't even have a 93 mile an hour fastball is Bryce Elder. I just don't like Bryce Elder. I don't think I can do it. If you're playing a K-prop against the Athletics, over is the only way to do it, because Andrew is absolutely right. They have a ton of swing and miss in their lineup, but Bryce Elder is just so uninspiring. His fastball is blah, his breaking stuff. He doesn't make guys miss when they chase. He's just kind of a pitcher. So if you're playing it, over is the only way to go. But in that ballpark with kind of a soft tosser, there is a chance that before he could even get to 5 strikeouts, that he gets tossed around a little bit. So, and Slim saying Snickers on the hot seat. You can see a major difference without our bench coaches, Washington and EY. Yeah, I totally get it. I totally understand it. I don't understand. And I also don't understand why he waited so long. Like why he didn't come out in the first and or send somebody out in the first to talk to Fuentes. It just they just did that kid no favors last night, and you could see it in his face. His confidence was crushed, and obviously it killed our prop. But when they pulled him, they had to pull him. They had to pull him because otherwise, like he was, I mean, he was done. And not just because the Athletics were getting hit. Sometimes you can just tell in a pitcher's body language when a guy is just like, F it, I'm done. And he was done. So they had to get him off the stage. But man, terrible, terrible job helping out your kid last night. All right, I won't rant on that anymore. Let's go to other looks and sides and totals for today. So there's a couple money lines that I think have value at plus money. I think that the Rays money line at plus 125 has some value. I just talked about it. I think the Athletics at even money has some value. And even though it would be projecting a sweep of the Doyers, I think the Brewers money line has value too. I I know that you're talking about sweeping the Dodgers, but their offense has just been ugly, ugly, ugly. So those are the money lines that I like for today. Would be the Athletics, the Rays, and the Brewers. All three are at plus money for totals. Not a ton that's popping. I think that the under in Toronto and the White Sox has some value. Under 8.5 right now, and maybe the over in Minnesota. Maybe the over in Minnesota, or here, I should say. Cubs and Twins, the over. So I'm just waiting for the Friday night Twins game because I'm going to go to it, and it's Skeens versus Joe Ryan. It's Byron Buxton bobblehead night, and Nelly is performing live after. So it'll be a Friday night party in Minneapolis, and I plan to be there. So, but that's what I like today. Shout out to everybody who contributed and who showed up in the chat. Appreciate y'all. Shout out to Luke Murphy, and again, happy anniversary. Shout out to Andrew, Kid Keon, Dale, Slim, Cover Kings, and I think that was it in the chat. So thank you all so much. Again, this show is brought to you on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. Please go ahead and give us a subscribe. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Follow me. Share this stream on X at Spin Doc Sports. And like I said, back tomorrow with another show, and got a whole bunch of other stuff coming, including tomorrow, round 2 of You'll Probably Thank Me Later, about a guy who you can use to your fantasy advantage. Best of luck in everything you're tailing, guys. See you then.